We live in a time when innovation and creativity are the path to autonomy, success, and unlimited potential. But our education system is trapped in the industrial age. We are still being fed the story that job security equals freedom. For many of us, that just isn't good enough. Every week, I'm bringing you the stories and experiences of entrepreneurs who don't accept the narrative that there is only one path to success. Their entrepreneurial journey is allowing them the freedom to prioritize both their businesses and their families. They are intentionally building a legacy to lead their family into a new era of innovation and growth. This is Our Modern Heritage Legacy Secrets, and I'm your host, Jody Chafee. All right, I want to welcome to the show today, Holly LaRochelle. I'm so excited to have her on. She is an intuitive business coach, mom of two, and lover of the outdoors. She helps passionate women find what's blocking their clarity, calm, and confidence so that they can run their businesses and step into their wildest dreams. And she's living her wildest dreams with her family on 11 acres outside of northern Alberta, right? Is that right, Holly?
Yeah, you got it.
Yay. So I'm so happy to have you here. Tell us about your business and a little bit about why you started, why you got into this entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I basically have had a lot of businesses since I jumped off the corporate curb, which was 3 years ago. So my business has sort of grown with me during that whole time. And the reason I really jumped off the curb was I felt like I was going to stand up on my office chair in the government office I worked in and scream at the top of my lungs and see if anyone could hear me, because I felt like I was invisible and I just kept watching the clock every day. And I felt like I had more passion, more things to bring into the world, and I just wasn't doing it through my work anymore. And I had been a recreation coordinator for over 15 years. I actually loved what I did. And so feeling like that was really kind of shocking. And so I, hummed and hawed for many, many months and totally overthank it, as, INFJ types will do. And then I finally landed a couple of gigs, digital marketing wise, that I had been doing on the side that I couldn't say no to. And I decided there was enough there that I could jump off the curb and still feed my family in month one, which was a really big concern in my life. And so I jumped off the curb and quit my $80,000 government job for life with full benefits, and launched myself into entrepreneurship. And so when I first started, I was a blogger. I had been writing a blog called The Inspired Home for over 3 years, and it was doing pretty well. We had 100 unique monthly page views, and we were working with major Canadian brands like Royal Bank and Carter's and Oshkosh and Crayola. And so I started with that and doing digital marketing, and I had been doing plans for influence companies that wanted to work with mom bloggers and social media. And I was also building websites and helping small business owners with their social media. So that's kind of how I leapt, very there's no parachute and no safety net into entrepreneurship. Yeah.
So how did that let me cut that out. That's really awesome. I totally relate to what you just said, because that was like our story. We've been, we felt my husband was working in a corporate job, and it was a toxic environment, really. And so what motivated us was really just that we wanted to have a more intentional path of fulfillment and feel like we were intentionally leading our family towards a different mindset around being self-reliant, being self-sufficient. And so how did you feel like your family was motivating you, or that you wanted to how was your business building your legacy?
In our family, we look at self-sufficiency a little bit differently. So even though we leapt without a financial plan, which I would not recommend to anybody, I have lots of good thoughts about that if you ever want to pick my brain. But I think our self-sufficiency, as it were, was that we were running a farm. We live on an 11-acre farm. So we had actually, filled our freezer full of amazing local meats, and we had, canned our hearts out, and we had, cases on cases of peaches and, salsa and all sorts of things in our cold cellar. So that was for us when we left. In some ways, that was sort of the safety net that we had. It wasn't necessarily cash, it was food. And so one of the big drivers for us has been being able to feed our family. When we feel like we're in a place where we can't feed our kids effectively, we get kind of squirrely. So this cold cellar has kind of represented that security blanket for us. And so when I came and said that to my husband, I said, I've tried this corporate thing, and I had to really admit, hey, this job we moved here for, I can't do it anymore, which was it was quite a bitter pill to come and say to my husband, who had, we had picked up our mountain life and moved it to farm. And then I came and said, 2.5 years later, listen, I can't keep doing this. And he of course he reacted with shock because this is the whole reason why we moved. But when I was really explaining what was going on, my husband found a job within a week. So, I'm really incredibly grateful that he was willing to do that at a time that I just couldn't do it anymore. And so leadership in our family, I feel like, shifts back and forth, depending on who's well and who is not well, or whatever that changing circumstances, we work as a team. And so we try and do that. And so right now we're in a new scenario again, where our kids go to school full time, and he's the one who can't do a full time anymore. And, it was like that whole scenario all over again. It was like, okay, what's in the cold cellar? Okay, how are we going to do this? And, coming together to build, financial plans, but also to build plans where, someone doesn't get thrown under the bus is the best way I can explain it. We do all have to work enough, whatever that looks like, to keep the lights on, keep our kids in bread and all that kind of stuff. But if you're doing that and it's killing you inside, is it really worth it? Mm-hmm. Right? And so we keep coming to that decision point where a new little pivot is needed, or a big new pivot is needed, because somebody's not okay. And in our family, we value that over everything. So if somebody in our family, of the four of us, between us and our two kids, is not okay, we need to make a change. And there's no denying that. It just is. And so that's when we make pivots that I'm sure look wild and crazy to the rest of the world. But to us, they make sense because we're protecting someone or something in our world that's important.
I love that so much. That's definitely something that I've observed in my own family, where my husband and I have basically switched roles, as he's become the homeschool dad and I'm the one that's working on building our business and stuff like that. And I totally understand what you're saying completely, that we made these shifts because somebody was suffering, and we can't just shrug it off and go, well, sorry, suck it up, that's life. But this mindset that you believed, that you do believe that your mental health, your family relationships are more important, even if it means that you've got to have your root cellar stocked up and you got to, dip into that more often than you go to the grocery store or things like that, whatever system that you had in place to be able to make those shifts and to pivot towards a more healthy lifestyle. You value those things more than looking normal or looking or accepting that the path, there's this path that we're supposed to follow. And you said, forget it, that path's not working for us.
Well, I think it was when I got to that path where I was, supposed to be, where I had two kids and I lived in a nice house in a nice environment, and we had renovated it. I got there and I had everything that I had, said I always wanted, and I was brutally unhappy. And so then I was like, wait a second, how come I have the job I've always wanted? I've got full benefits. I've got, two beautiful children. I have all that I've said, I've got an amazing husband who builds amazing stuff, and yet I'm brutally unhappy. Like, to the point where I lost an organ because my body was sick, and I was sick in every possible way there is to be sick. And, you know, there, I know people are always like, this was the breaking point. There really was so many breaking points, but it was like that small incremental change. And I knew in a lot of those moments, I never knew like where or what I really wanted. All I knew was the situation I was in could not go on the way it was. And you don't have to know anything else other than that, but that there's that soul deep moment where you're like, this just can't keep going this way. I cannot deal with this. It's not okay. And you feel like you're going to stand up in your office chair and scream, or you feel like you're, just giving and giving and giving and you're getting nothing back. Like, whatever it feels like to you, those grindy parts, we don't have to do that. Like, we really don't. There's a beautiful permission slip to try a new way.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our listeners who are in the position where you were, or they're experiencing that feeling of hitting their wall, and that point where they're just done, what would be your advice for them to support them in taking steps towards that taking care of themselves, and what they can do in that process of nurturing themselves and their family? What would be your advice?
I think it's a brilliant place to be. And I know that's going to come off sounding very like, haha, but it's not. It's because when you know what you don't want, you actually know what you do want, because you just want the opposite of what you have. And you get to define that for yourself and really get curious and figure out what that is. And to me, I'm a great lover of everything creative. And to me, there's a real invitation there to step into your own life and be like, what is that? What is that thing? And to try a creative passion project. And to me, a creative passion project is something that is interesting to you, and no judgment about what it is, because I've been interested in tons of radical things. You get to start this creative passion project, and you don't have to start it as a business. You don't have to start it as the thing you're going to do for the next 10 years. No one cares. You're just going to do something that you find interesting. It might not bring you any money. It might not bring you any fame. It might not bring you any success. It doesn't matter. It just is trying something new for the pure curiosity because you're interested. That's it. And so what I started doing for mine was, I really liked hiking with my dog. And so I would hike with my dog every single day. We had one trail loop we did. It was really boring. It was like two kilometers. It was beautiful in the mountains. You walked over like an iron bridge over a stream. But other than that, it was like super boring. We did the same thing every freaking day. But I started to build that discipline and that practice of doing something. And because I couldn't even think of anything curious to do. I wasn't even curious about anything. I was so beaten down that I couldn't think of anything. So the thing that felt good to me was to walk with my dog. So I did. And some days I would, strap on a baby carrier and take a small child with me, and another one on a run bike or a snow run bike, depending on the day. And that's what I did. And I just did it as often as I could. I tried to do it every day, but life with kids. So that's what I did. And I just made a practice of something that I could get into. And, from that, I decided I'd like to hike with friends. So I started a group called Hinton Outdoor Families, and I invited friends to come on the same hike that I would do every day. And they would, or we would meet at the toboggan hill and we would start tobogganing, or, whatever, it doesn't even matter. So it'll build. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to come up with a multi-million-dollar business idea. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to cure cancer. It's just a curious project and something you think you can do right now. That's it.
I love that so much, because I think that we do get caught up in like, oh, I want my big idea to work, or I want to break free and become a millionaire. But really, it's about what is going to feed our souls. And then you just keep following that curiosity, and it keeps growing and growing. And in our day and age of technology or whatever, like you can start anything and it will catch on. Like it's something that you will begin to impact other people's lives like you did by inviting people to come and join you. And I think that that's really the crucial point of all of this, is that we want to fulfill our creative passions and also make an impact and change people's lives. And so that's really beautiful, Holly. I love that so much. So that's awesome. And where can we learn more about you and your services and what you're doing with your businesses right now?
You can find me on my website, which is hollylarochelle.com. I'm also a ridiculous Instagrammer. I really like Instagram. I have that photography eye. So you can also find me at holly.larochelle on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. I loved having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. But I have to tell you that this is just the beginning. There is more to this episode inside of my Facebook group. I hope that you'll go and request to join that community because it's awesome. There's more podcast content that's exclusive to the group. There's also giveaways, live Q&As, and you can come and ask questions and take part in this awesome community. So please come and request to join at facebook.com/groups/familyculture-strategies. You can also find my page on Facebook at facebook.com/familyculturepodcast. And I'm at Instagram on the same handle, Family Culture Podcast. So I hope you'll come and follow me there and join in this movement to create an intentional family culture around being entrepreneurial and integrating and prioritizing your family as you grow your business. So come and join me there. I hope to see you there. You can also come find my website at ourmodernheritage.com. Thank you so much. And remember that if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.